How many times should you pray istikhara for a decision you are unsure about? So there's no limit on the number of istikhara that an individual can make. Basically, if you want to make istikhara, there is khilaf between the scholars on what the best way is. Should you make the decision, then make istikhara, or if you're mutaraddid and you're not really sure on what direction to take, do you make istikhara? Both of these are reasonable situations. Umar radiallahu anh, during his khilafah, it's recorded that he used to make istikhara almost nightly on the different decisions that he would have to make. When should you make it? Until your heart is at ease, right? Until your heart is at ease. Is there ever a point where it's like, oh, 100% for sure? No, there's never going to be a point where a person reaches like full yaqeen that their decision is correct. What is the point of istikhara and what is the point of istishara? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us two tools for decision making. One of them is istishara, where we seek counsel from others and we ask others and we take input from others. And the second one is doing istikhara. So when I do istishara, say, okay, hey, listen, I want to open this business, I want to marry this person, I'm having this issue with my family, I don't know which school to go to, right? So what do? We start talking to other people. I want to take this job, we start talking to other people to get an idea on whether this is a good idea or not. And why do we do this? Again, because this is a way and means of seeking barakah. Even the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ, and to seek counsel from them. So it's important for us to seek that counsel before we make decisions so that we get input from other people and we learn from other people's experiences. And then we can, at this point, I can make a decision and be like, okay, well, either a majority of people or, what this person is saying, it makes the most sense. So this is the thing and this is the path I'm going to follow. Then we make istikhara. So istikhara in this situation, somebody is asking for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to put barakah in his decision, right? Istikhara, talib khair, right? That if you like over here, like the Hamza Sin Ta, this is for talab. And istikhara is asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to put blessing into that decision. Or asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give tawlih, to give clarification on a particular issue. Will I reach a point where I get full clarification? Not always, right? Sometimes I look at two things and they're very equal, and that's fine. This just means I have two equal decisions, and both of them, there could be good in them. And at the end of the day, even if I do istishara, and even if I do istikhara, and I don't get the job, or my business fails, or the marriage doesn't work out, or whatever, or the proposal doesn't work out, whatever the situation might be, it's okay, right? This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had intended, and I did my best, right? I did my level best in seeking all of the means in order to reach my goal. I like using the example of somebody who gets in their car, right? So there's gas in the car, they make sure there's oil, their tires are full, they put on their seatbelt. I've done everything I could, right? I've prepared the best that I could. Does it guarantee I'll reach my destination? Right, that's up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's the same thing here. With every decision that we make, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for khair, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless those decisions. How should Muslims deal with doubts about their faith or specific aspects of Islam? So there are levels in dealing with doubt when it comes to religious issues. My first piece of advice always is the moment if I receive a doubt or there's a doubt that I am dealing with and I'm not sure what to do. So sometimes it's easy just to say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, and we just know it's like a very passing waswasa. If it's something that's more pressing and something that's bothering me, what can I do? I can reach out to a person of knowledge, or I can reach out to a local imam, I can reach out to a local scholar and be like, hey, listen, I'm having this issue and it's really bothering me. Even Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Arini kayfa tuhyi al-mawta. He said, show me how to bring life to death. Right? So seeking and having this curiosity is something that is completely healthy, because if I'm curious about something and I get the answer to that, what happens to my yaqeen? What happens to my conviction? It goes up. Every time we receive the answer to something, it just makes me that much more mutmain. It makes me that much more content. So it's completely reasonable to ask questions. Sometimes I think the mistakes that we as parents make is that our parents will ask us questions that we never thought of, right? Our children will ask us questions that we never thought of or that we think are strange. If they're asking, it's important to them. And it's also important to answer those questions. Even if I don't have the answer, then what do? I take them to someone who has the answer, right? That's my job as a parent. Because if I teach my child, I don't know, or let's find out, or let's look it up, or let's go talk to someone, this teaches my child how to be humble. It teaches tawadu, right? It teaches khulu'a, it teaches tadallul, right? It teaches all of these qualities that we want to instill in our children, but there's no way to instill these qualities unless we instill them in ourselves first. So being gateways and helping our children get to these answers, even sometimes it might be a learning experience for us, right? It might be a question that ما خطر إلى بالي, right? You know, something that I never thought of, and it's an opportunity for me to go and learn, and to go and benefit myself, and to go and benefit my child. So these are opportunities we definitely should take advantage of, and we should always ask when we're unsure. What are the ethical considerations for Muslims involved in modern financial systems, including interest-based banking? So it's important to understand that some people will be like, oh, working for a bank is haram. You cannot put that blanket ruling over that. There are different positions in a bank, and there are different services that a bank offers. So for example, protecting my wealth. For example, giving me a card instead of wealth. You know what I mean? So how many of us have an ATM card? Why? Because I don't have to walk around with stacks of cash. Right? So these services are actually halal services, and these are things that we all utilize the bank for. Sometimes moving money from one account to another, transferring money to other people. These are all halal and completely reasonable services that a bank does. And my involvement in that, sometimes you have people who are just programmers, you know, who program different criteria because the bank is looking for certain things. So not every single aspect of a bank is haram. Someone might ask, okay, well, what about a risk assessment officer, somebody who looks to someone to see if they qualify for a loan or not? I say, this is just an algorithm. All he's doing is saying if this person qualifies or not. It's up to the bank to decide on whether this person is eligible to be given that loan or not. So it's important that we compartmentalize a lot of these positions instead of just putting out blanket prohibitions. And not just that. If we don't have people who are versed in finance or people who work in these fields, how are we going to create an alternative system? I'm sure if I asked here how many people don't have a bank account, I'm sure nobody will raise their hand. And if we understand that every single one of us needs a bank account, that also means that we need to start coming up with alternative systems. Okay, I don't like this. Mashi, I understand that, I respect that, I completely get it. What is the alternative? Where do you want me to go? And if someone tells me, oh, go to Bank of Qatar, or go to Rajihi, or go to some of these other foreign banks, how much can I, as an American citizen, trust my money in a foreign bank? Just being honest. And on top of, and how much priority will my money get being in those banks? Will I receive the same type of insurance clauses that I have available to me here, right? Will the FDIC protect my deposit in the Bank of Kuwait? And not just that, are those banks working Islamically? Or are they just run by Muslims? If that's the case, all right, that's fine, and we understand that there's a need for banks. All of a sudden now, all right, if there's a need for banks, instead of having Islamic banks, is it not better to have Muslim banks? Because then a Muslim bank will use those same tools, but maybe look out for the individuals and the people in the Muslim community. Like, these are things we need to think about. Like, a lot of times it's easy for us to put a label, like, it's haram to do this, and you can't buy a house, and you can't do this, and you can't purchase a car, blah, blah. Okay, tayyib, I respect that. I don't need to agree, right? But I respect that. What is my alternative? What do I do? And those same people, unfortunately, and not all of them, but those same people say, oh, well, you can't buy a house. They've been collecting cash because many of them aren't paying taxes. A lot of these same individuals will be on some type of state aid. And then these same people will be sending money overseas and building 2 or 3 houses in a country that many of their children will not go back to. It's a sad reality. And if we understand, and many of us will, well, my children are Somali or Kenyan or Egyptian or Pakistani, blah, 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 then why do we have pizza at all of our events? If my child is so Pakistani or so Indian or so Kenyan or Egyptian, why do I have American food? Because the palate of our children has changed. They've been born and raised here. And not every aspect of this culture is bad. There are a lot of things that I'm actually very proud of in my children that I see. There's a level of independence that's in them. There's a level of confidence that I see in them. There's a level of challenging authority that I see in them. Like, these are things I'm actually very proud of. There's a level of lack of tolerance of corruption. Now, subhanAllah, I didn't realize this until I actually traveled overseas. Like, I was in Lebanon, I was in Pakistan, I was in, a lot of the third world countries, and taking rishwa is so normal. Like, taking bribes is so normal. And for me, I've also been born and raised here. When I'm dealing with that, I have a sense of, it's disgusting to me. But a lot of people who live in those societies and cultures are yeah, this is normal, it's okay. Yeah, just give them money. So we have to ask ourselves, which culture, there are elements of the culture that are bad, and I agree with that, there's no doubt. But there are also a lot of elements that are good. And I do say this a lot. Just look around. Everybody's not here by accident. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq.